What's up, guys? My name's Noah Cronin, and this is what's in my bag. First off, I have a Latitude 64 E3 luxury bag. I moved up from one of the shoulder bags, and this was the first one that I had got. It's a little bit big, but I have a big stature, so it's not too bad. It holds 24 to 26 discs maximum if you really want to stuff it. Let's start with my putters. I putt with a KC Pro Aviar. I've putt with the KC Pro Aviar for probably the past 3 to 4 years now. This one is the one specifically that I putt with, the blue one. I use this white one just for when I'm warming up, just because it's the same exact mold, and I keep it in my bag as a throwing putter. And if anything is to happen to my blue one mid-round, then I'll have an extra to putt with. And I keep a third one, which is my very first one that I've had for 3 to 4 years now, and I use this as a throwing putter. It stays really nice and straight, maybe turns a little bit, but it's perfect. It has a little bit of a lower profile. Honestly, it might even be a little bit of a different mold than these other two. It feels a little flatter. It doesn't have that same beefy rim that these two have, even though they're all three KC Pros, but this is the one that I like to throw. So those are my putters, KC Pro Aviars. I love the way that the plastic feels. Sometimes in the rain though, the plastic can feel a little bit slick, but I like how firm they are. I can really press my thumb into it and it won't push down that much. But yeah, I don't see myself putting with anything else anytime soon. My next one is my newest addition to the bag. It's a JAWBREAKER APX approach disc. I just started throwing it a couple days ago, but I've been working on my backhand approach shots, and this has been really giving me some confidence in them. It stays super straight. There's no turn, no fade. Just really will hold the line that you put it on. So JAWBREAKER APX has been pretty solid, and it feels really comfortable in my hand. Moving on to the next one. This may be the disc that I throw the most every single round. It's a harp, and it's a BT Hard Harp, and really it's just for my flick up shots. I feel like I throw this disc on every single hole after my drive. Wherever my drive lands, if it's a flick shot, if it's a 250 feet and in flick shot, I'm pulling out the harp every single time. I don't usually backhand it too much. It doesn't feel too comfortable as a backhand, but I throw it on a flick all the time. I would say this may be my most thrown disc in my bag, just because I use it so many times every round. And the BT Hard Harp is definitely something that everyone should have in their bag. It's a sweet disc. On to my next one is a Prodigy M3 in the 400 series plastic. This is probably my straightest flying disc. I have a pretty big arm, so I like to unleash and throw really far. And if I want to just put this thing on a dead straight line, I can put it on a little bit of a hyzer and it'll just ride forever. Like if I need to throw straight, dead straight, 350 feet and in, I'm pulling out my M3 just because I have so much confidence in it. It's nice and flat, it feels really nice in my hand. I don't ever flick this just because, me personally, I haven't had much success flicking stable to understable discs yet. That's going to be something that I'm going to have to work on my game this coming season, but on a backhand, the Prodigy M3 400 series, it's just dead straight. You can put this thing on a line and it'll hold it. I have so much confidence in this disc and I never want to lose it. It's a sweet disc. This is also one of my newer additions to the bag. After I get through everything, you'll realize that my main company that I use is Discmania. So I picked up a Discmania MD3. I don't know, I'm not super sold on it yet. I might want to try the MD2 or even the MD. Maybe this one's just a little too domey for my liking, but it feels good in my hand. It's just every time I throw it, it just feels inconsistent to me. I don't know. I haven't really formed too much of an opinion on this one just because I haven't thrown it too much, but I am trying to convert my entire bag to either Discmania or Innova. So I just picked it up just because it's a mid-range and I didn't have a mid-range that Discmania made. I'm not super in love with it yet. I might throw it some more, or I might try a different mid-range from Discmania, but it's still overall, it's a great disc. I just haven't found much success with it yet. On to my next one is a Westside Bard. It's very similar to the Harp. I think honestly the only difference is it has one more speed and one more glide, but it feels very similar. Except I like backhanding this one. It feels really comfortable in my hand. very predictable, overstable. It's pretty much just a faster harp in my mind. I like to flick it. It's very predictable. It'll always go either right on the flick or left on the backhand, and in a headwind you could always pull out a bard and feel really comfortable that it's not going to turn over. I would say I'm still comfortable throwing the harp on any shot I would throw the bard on if it's a flick. If it's a backhand, I have a little more confidence in the bard just because I don't backhand the harp as often. But yeah, west side bard, solid disc, definitely a great overstable mid-range to have in your bag for sure. This is also one of my newest additions to the bag. It's an EMac Justice. This is like the bard on steroids pretty much. I don't think I'm ever gonna backhand this disc unless I really need it to go to the left. It's definitely my most overstable mid-range in my bag right now. It feels really comfortable in my hand for a flick, and I always know that it's gonna go to the right. I don't know, I haven't thrown this one too much as well, so I haven't formed a full opinion on it, but I do know that this is probably the second beefiest disc in my bag right now. And like I said, for the bard, for a headwind, you could definitely pull out the Justice and have super confidence in it that it's not going to turn over, and it'll definitely follow its true flight line even in a headwind. Yeah, Justice, everyone should probably have the most overstable mold for a putter, mid-range, and a driver, and this is my most overstable mid-range, and it's just good to have something that you have confidence in, that you know won't turn over in a headwind, or that will always go left or always go right. So yeah, the EMac Justice, definitely a great disc. Onto my fairways. I only have 2 fairway drivers in my bag at the moment. This one's a C-Line Flake FD, just a pure FD. Right out of the bag, right out of the box, probably the straightest flying fairway driver you could get. You can put this thing on 70%, just flat, and it's just gonna go forever, dead straight. Maybe a little bit of turn, and then it'll come back. But I don't know, this feels really good in my hand. The rim is a little bit small for my liking, but whenever I need, a dead straight, other than my M3, if I want that driver feel in my hand on a dead straight line, then I'm gonna pick up the FD. But I still feel confident in my M3 for anything 350 and in on a nice straight line. But an FD will give you a little bit of a faster speed, and it'll still carry out that same straight line, maybe with a little bit of a harder finish at the end. The M3 will kind of just glide out and kind of sit, but the FD will go straight for a while, and then it'll kind of crash at the end. So definitely a great disc to have in your bag, the Discmania FD. The FD2 is very similar to the FD, except it'll have a little bit more bite. It's definitely not going to fly as straight for as long. I'm pretty sure the FD has a 6 for a glide. This one I think has a 4 for a glide, so it's definitely not going to go as far, but it feels pretty comfortable in your hand. I used to use this a lot for flicks. I don't throw this disc too often. It's kind of a utility for me at this point, but it's still in my bag because there is times that I need to throw this disc. It's the C-Line FD2. It's a 172 weight. I don't usually backhand this too often. It does feel more comfortable for a flick in my hand, but I don't throw this too often, so it's just kind of in my bag just because I like the way that it feels in my hand, and I like, in case I really do need this shot, then I do have it in my bag. Onto a little bit of a faster driver. This is the CD2 in the C-Line plastic. It's a 168. I did get it a little bit lighter because I wanted it to go a little straighter before it crashed. It's not that good in a headwind because it is a 168, but it's one of my, I would say it's one of my most thrown drivers as well, because this is like my 400 to 450 dead straight. If you just put this on a little bit of hyzer, it's just going to go forever, and it's going to have a nice little fade at the end. If you put it on an anhyzer, it'll carry it for a while and then slowly come back. The CD2 Control Driver 2 is definitely a great disc that everyone should have in their bag, I feel. Feels really comfortable in the hand. It's a great control driver, and it's exactly what it is. You have a lot of control over it. I feel like whenever I pull this out, I do feel confident that I have full control over this disc, and it's not going to do something inconsistent or something that I don't think it's going to do. This is also one of my newer additions to my bag. It's an FD3. It's sort of like a Firebird in the sense of this is probably my most overstable disc in my bag, right next to my Justice. if I need something very predictable or a super headwind, I'm pulling out the FD3 just because I know for a fact it's going to either go left on a backhand or right on a flick. No matter what weight it is. This is a 167 and it's still the most overstable disc in my bag by far. The C-Line FD3. Like I said before, I believe everyone should have the most overstable mold that they can find just for confidence and for headwinds. And if you're ever in a situation where you need the disc to go far right or far left or skip a lot, then you need that in your bag. And I believe that everyone should have an FD3 in their bag just because it's super consistent, super predictable. And for me, it just has a better feel in my hand than a Firebird does. It feels really nice. The rim is perfectly fit for my hand. So that's the C-Line FD3. Onto my distance drivers, I have a S-Line PD. This is used not too often, but it's pretty beaten at this point. It flies really straight and then it'll have a pretty hard hook at the end. For someone that doesn't have a big arm, the PD is going to be a little bit more stable than it is for me. I wouldn't call it an overstable for me, especially in the S-Line plastic. If you get it in the C-Line plastic and you get a max weight one, then it is going to be overstable for sure. But in the S-Line plastic, and I have a 172 for the PD, it's nice and straight and it has a pretty hard finish at the end. I can pretty much work this how I want to. I don't throw it too much every round, but whenever I do throw it, I definitely have confidence in it, and that's the S-Line PD. Onto my next one, which is also a pretty new addition. It's a Star Wraith at 171. Funny story, my very first disc ever was actually a black Star Wraith. And I had it for like 3 to 4 years, and that's what I threw every single throw. It was my driver, it was my mid-range, it was my putter. And this was years ago when I first started playing, but it's fun, it's really cool to have that disc back in my hand again. It's great. Star Wraith, it's just, you can count on it. It's a great distance driver. It's going to go as far as you want it to, and then it's going to have a nice predictable finish at the end. I use this for long hyzer shots. I don't use this for super straight shots. I'd rather use the CD2, maybe even the PD for a straighter shot than this, because this is going to have a little more beef at the end. But the Star Wraith is definitely a great driver to have in your bag, and it feels super comfortable in the hand. As of right now, this Champ Colossus is my maximum distance driver. It's a 166. I definitely wouldn't use this in a headwind, but as of right now, this is my maximum distance driver. If I need to go as far as I can, I'm pulling out the Colossus and I'm putting it on a tiny bit of a hyzer, just full power, cranking it, and it'll turn over and it'll hold for a long time before it hooks up and comes back. So I definitely wouldn't want to use this in a headwind. If I need to get max distance out of a headwind, I have a couple other discs that I'll use that. But for me, I have huge hands, and this has a really fat rim on it. A lot of people don't like 14-speed drivers with really fat rims just because they don't fit very comfortably in the hand. But I have big hands, and this just fits perfectly in my hand, and I feel like I can mash this thing. I don't know. The Champ Colossus is definitely my max distance driver at the moment. This is also one of my newer additions with these other couple ones. It's a Champion Shryke. I've been liking it, but kind of a little different than the Colossus. The rim is a little bit smaller, and when I feel like I really want to mash on it, sometimes the release might be a little inconsistent for me personally. The glide on this is ridiculous. If you get this thing up nice and flat, it's just going to glide forever before it comes back left. I actually got a nice pull on this the other day. It was probably about 440, 450, and it just held perfect, and then it had a pretty nice finish at the end with a good skip. The Champion Shryke is definitely a great disc to have in the bag, but if you're not trying to really, I don't know, it's a little touchy. It can get a little touchy. I'm not sure how consistent this is going to be. I haven't thrown it enough to really form a full opinion, but as of right now, it does feel a little bit touchy, and it hasn't really stayed true to what I thought it was going to be. But it's definitely a great disc, and when you really do get a good line on it, this thing flies forever. The Discmania DD in the C-Line plastic is used to be, you can't really see it in the picture or in the video right now, but this thing is beat up. This used to be my main distance driver. I would throw it off the tee pretty much every single time. It's nice and consistent. It's an 11 speed, so it's not super fast. The rim is nice and beefy. It feels really good in my hand. It's a thick rim, so it feels good. I can really mash my thumb into it, and it doesn't feel like it's going to go the wrong way. Used to be able to use this for flicks and for backhand, and it would be super consistent. I've kind of deviated away from it as of late because of one of my other discs, but I still keep it in my bag just because it was my main driver for a long time, and I know that I could always trust it if I need to. Onto my overstable drivers. I got a C-Line PD2 here. It's a little bit lighter. It's a 167, but you don't really find too many PD2s in max weight. This one, it feels really good for a flick. It's nice and flat. I don't backhand it too much. When I backhand it, I kind of find inconsistencies in it, but when I flick it, it's money every single time, and it's great for headwinds on a flick for sure. It's nice and flat, and it's just got a really good rim. This one even has some, I don't know if it's cuts or something, but it has little cuts in the plastic, and in the rain the other day I was throwing it and it just felt like my thumb was gripping it a lot better, so this was definitely a great disc to have in the rain. And it just flies so nice, and for something that has a 4 for a glide, I feel like it actually glides a little bit further than that. Maybe it's just because it's a little bit lighter, but the Discmania C-Line PD2 is definitely a great overstable distance driver to have. Right here we got a Dynamic Discs Defender. Right now this is probably either my first or second most thrown driver in my bag. Lately it's been beating in really nice, and it's starting to get a nice turn on it. Other than the Colossus, whenever I need to really rip on one and get some max distance on it, I'm pulling this out, especially in a little bit more of a headwind, because the Colossus is a 166, this is a 173, 172 actually, and it can fight the headwind a little bit better. But lately, since it's been beating in very well, even if I put it on a little bit of a hyzer on full power, it's going to turn over and go forever. So the Dynamic Disc Defender is a great driver to have, and it feels super comfortable in the hand. Even for flicks, it feels super good. I'd probably say that I backhand this more often than I flick it, but it's a great distance driver for sure. And my last disc in my bag is an Ice Bowl Destroyer that I had won in a player's pack from a tournament that I played in February a couple months ago. This is my go-to flick driver not for max distance, because I don't really do max distance on flicks. I can get a flick up to about 400, 420 maximum if I want to, but this is by far my go-to flick driver, and it just feels so comfortable. It's so predictable. It feels super good in my hand. It always does the same thing. Even in headwind, the Destroyer is a great disc to throw because it'll fight that wind. I do backhand it a decent amount too, but it's definitely not my go-to for a maximum distance backhand because it's a little too beefy for that. It'll come out too early. But for flicks, man, I love it. You can do it nice and flat and it'll go forever and then fade. You could even put a little bit of an anhyzer on it and it'll hold it and then come back and fade. My Ice Bowl Destroyer, it's sweet. It's in the S-Line plastic, the Star plastic, and this is definitely my go-to flick driver. It's really comfortable in the hand, and it's gotten me out of a lot of tough situations. If you know anyone that's played with me over the past 3 months, they'll know that I've been leaning on this thing a lot, and it's been my backbone for probably the last 2 months, and it's been really holding up well. That's the Ice Bowl Destroyer in the Star plastic. It's a 172. And that's it for all my discs. Quick little bag review. The luxury E3 bag is a little bit heavy, and on hot days like this, it can kind of get a little bit cumbersome, but I still love it just because it looks super nice. It has plenty of storage and it feels comfortable on my back. For me personally, I have a big stature, so it doesn't really bother me too much. But for someone with a smaller stature, this might be a little bit too much of a bag for them. So you might want to go to the E2 or maybe just the E1, or maybe just try to find a different bag that fits your back a little bit better. but this bag definitely is super sweet for me. It has the 3 putter holder on the back. It has a really big storage compartment on the top. I don't know if you can see that, but it has 2 pencil holders. It has 2 big pockets here. It has a big pocket on the front. I think I actually have some stuff in here. Yep, I got a dynamic discs towel, just in case I need it. Usually I have a blue towel hanging off this strip, but the other day I played a 3rd round and I ended up moving some of my discs to my 2nd bag that's a little bit lighter, just so that it wasn't messing with my back on my 3rd round. So I don't have my normal towel on the side, but I always have a backup towel if I need it. I also have a retriever. I tried using this the other day and I was throwing it for like 10 minutes at my disc, which got sunk in a pond, and I just couldn't figure it out. I don't know if I was doing it wrong. Probably should tie it on the end of a stick and maybe try that, but it didn't work. I wouldn't say it didn't work. I would say I didn't do it right. It's definitely a great thing to have in the bag and will save you a couple discs if you can learn how to use it, which I need to do. I need to learn how to use it. I also have a Latitude 64 clipboard for scorecards, and then everyone, in my opinion, should hold a rule book in their bag, just in case you ever get into an argument or you ever need to just clarify anything. It's really good to always have a rule book, and I just have it in my front pouch. I haven't had to use it yet, but I always like to have it in my bag. And I think that's it. I think one other thing, the side pouch does come with, this bag does come with a rain fly. It's really, really good for rainy rounds. Sorry if you can hear the sirens. It's really good for rainy rounds, and I have used it a couple times, and it works really well. It definitely works really well. So I hope you enjoyed my in the bag, and I hope some of these discs have given you a different mindset of what they might be. I definitely throw Discmania primarily, but I'm dabbling with a couple different companies, and I'm still trying to tune in my bag completely, but I feel really confident in where it's at now. Thanks for watching, guys.